Alright, so we're going to keep working on the moon project. I'm going to go up to File and say Set Project. I'm going to find my D drive, Sarcona 2510 work folder. Here's my moon folder. I'm going to hit Set. Okay, notice I haven't opened up a file yet. You always want to open up Maya, set your project, and then go to File Open, and then find your stuff. So this is my moon project. Okay, and that's where we left off last time, was we had this little alien dude. All right, so if you remember from my example, we actually had like a little flag standing here also. I'm gonna make my moon a bit bigger, so I'm just gonna scale this up a little bit and then push him down. I could also make the alien smaller. Either one is acceptable, but seeing as how I got the lighting perfect on the alien, I think it's easier just to move the moon because this is where my focus is. Okay, now he has a little bit more room. And it looks good. Alright, so now we're going to do the flagpole. So to do the flagpole, we're going to create a polygon cylinder. And I'm just scaling it down. I hold control and I drag on that top bar, and it scales it in the other two directions but not the top bar direction. See? Or I could just come over to here where the cylinder is and just change the radius to whatever I need to. Okay, now I'll make the flag pole. It's just the pole now. And I'll set it about there. That looks good. Now I'm going to have the flag blowing in this general direction. Okay, I'm going to make it a little bit thicker. Still a little bit too thin. There we go. That's good. Okay, so let's go create a polygon plane. And for this, the part that we're going to be doing to make it blow, it has to be a polygon plane. A NURBS plane will not work. So now I'm just rotating it into position. I'm not doing anything fancy that we haven't done 75 trillion times already. You'll see how a lot of the stuff that we're doing in this project is a lot of tools we've used before. There's a couple of new things, but a lot of the same tools that we've used before, we're just using them in a different way. Okay, I'm going to put this just basically outside. You can see there's a little bit of a gap between these two. I still want to get it pretty much centered-ish. Doesn't have to be perfect, okay? But if you want to get your OCD kicking in, you can get it exactly perfectly centered. Okay, there we go. So there's our flag. Just for scale purposes, we want to get this as scaled perfectly as we can. Okay. I also want to make sure that these things are square. So I'm going to come over here to my polyplane options. I'm going to go to my subdivision width and just middle drag until these things turn out to be square, which they are. There we go. Okay, and again, those numbers are going to be different for you than they are for me. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go to End Mesh. Okay, so I have the flag selected. End Mesh, Create End Cloth option box. And it's going to make a new solver. That's the only thing we have to make sure it's set to. Create End Cloth. So now if I give myself some more frames, and I'm going to give myself, let's say, 500 frames. I'm also going to make sure next to the key I have the preferences here. I'm going to make sure that my playback speed is set to play every frame. My max playback speed is set to real time. Okay, playback or play every frame in real time. So now as I rewind this and hit play, what's going to happen is my flag's going to fall. And there it goes. Okay, so this, just like we did on our desk, it gives us a bit of dynamic, dynamic object. I can't talk tonight. And it falls down and goes wherever. Okay, so we have to hold it in place. We have to say, you know, if this was a real flag and we put it by our flagpole, nothing's going to hold it down. It's just going to fall. So we're going to right click and go to vertex. I'm going to click on, let's say, this vertex here at the very top corner. I'm going to shift click on this vertex at the very bottom. So I have the top vertex and the bottom vertex selected. I'm going to go to End Constraint, and I'm going to go to Transform Constraint. So now what these things do is they hold this object in place. So now when I rewind this should already be rewound anyway, I hit play, you'll see that my flag just kind of stays right where it's at. Now it's intersecting, I'm going to rewind it again, it's intersecting this pole. If I hit play again, you see how it goes right through the pole. Well, obviously we don't want that. So I'm going to rewind it, click the flagpole, go to End Mesh, and say Create a Passive Collider option box. And I just have to make sure it's associated with the correct one, which is nucleus 1, which is the one for my flag. Make collide. Rewind it, hit play. Now we should see is that it doesn't collide with it anymore. Okay? Now this is great. This is perfect what we want, but obviously it's not flapping. Now if you know anything about physics, because there's no gravity on the moon, really it wouldn't be falling like this. And realistically, because there's no space, there's no air in space, there wouldn't be any blowing or anything else. It would just be kind of like frozen, essentially. So we're going to kind of fake it and give it the look of it without actually making it look like too earthy or too moony. Okay, we want some movement on here. So I'm going to go to the attribute editor with Control A, with the flag selected, and I'm going to go to the far right side where we see nucleus. And I'm just going to rename this flag nucleus. And we're going to create another one later, so I just want to make sure it's labeled now. So flag nucleus. I spelled nucleus. There we go. Nucleus. And in here, I'm going to basically turn down my gravity. I'm going to make this smaller so I can see the rest of my controls. I'm going to turn down my gravity to maybe 2. So then when I hit play, you'll see that it kind of falls. Okay? It's still falling because there's no other forces acting on it. It just doesn't fall as quick. And maybe I'll put that down to even 1. There we go. So now it's even a little bit slower. Okay, I still want to stay up though, and I still want to have kind of like the rippling in there. So that's where wind speed comes in. So I'm going to kick wind speed up to 1. Hit play. And we get a little bit different feel for this. You can see it's actually like coming around to the other side now. Okay, so I'm going to rewind it again. And instead of this going in the positive x direction, that's why this is in the first box, because that means positive x. I want it to go in the negative x direction. Now yours might be different. Yours might be in the z direction. You just have to look at it and see which direction your negative x is. My negative x is going that way. That's what the direction I want. I'm also going to add some wind noise. So I'm going to add, let's say, I'll add 20. I know this is going to be crazy, but I'll add 20 and we'll just rewind it and play it and see what happens. Okay, see, that's what 20 is going to do. So now I can say, okay, well, it's obviously too much. Let me take it down to 10. Still too much. Let's take it down to 5. And every time I'm rewinding it and then replaying. Okay. Now I kind of like the way that's looking right there. We're not going to play this thing for that long. It's only going to be on for about 4 or 5 seconds. But just some sort of movement in here is going to be nice. Now I definitely don't want that wrapping around. That's a no-no. So maybe I'll kick my wind speed up a little bit to 2. Rewind it and play it. Maybe I'll take my gravity down to 0.25. Rewind it and play it. There we go. Okay, so it's just a matter of playing with those settings with the gravity, the wind speed, the wind direction, and the wind noise, just to get something that feels a little bit more outer spacey. Okay, so I'm just going to play this until I get to an area that I like. I like the way it looks here. Okay, so I just stopped it at about 321-ish. I'm going to go up to my hotbox. I'm going to go to End Solver, Initial State, and Set from Current with my flag selected. Okay. End solver, initial state, set from current with the flag selected. And then what that means is that now when I rewind it, you see that it's stuck right there. So then when I hit play, it's just going to solve from there. Instead of being perfectly flat and then going, it's just going to start at that weird spot. Okay? So that's perfect. That's exactly what I want my flag to look like. So now I'm going to grab this. I'm going to go to Lighting and Shading, Assign New Material. I'm going to go find my Mia. There it is. I'm going to call this flag underscore Mia. I'm going to click on the color mapper because I want to map a file in. Go to my folder, and you may not believe this, but I found, it's in my other folder, hold on. There we go. Just brought all my textures in. This is the European Japan Mars flag. I have no idea what that even means, but it looks fancy. Okay, so I'm placing it on my flags. I just dropped it onto my file, and I hit play. And you can see here is the texture. Now, if it didn't come in correctly, I can go to this Place 2D texture, and I can use this Rotate to rotate the direction of it. Okay. I think that's upside down. Let me just reset that. There we go. I think that's right. I have no idea. That looks right. Obviously, the other way was not right. But now when we hit play, it looks beautiful. Look at that. It looks like a regular flag on there, a real life flag. So now I'm going to hit the back button until I get back to my flag Mia. I'm going to go down to reflectivity. Obviously, it wouldn't be super reflective, maybe like 0.1, just to give us some specularity. Let's take this glossiness down to about 0.1. Let's go down to our bump map, and just like we did in our cloth previously, I'm going to go to a standard bump and put cloth on here. Where is it? Right there. Okay, lower the bump depth of the cloth, go to my cloth, go to this arrow to get to the place 2D texture. Again, I can go through the hypershade too. If I click on the flag, go to the hypershade. Here's the flag's Mia. I can go to click on this and graph it out. Or I can click on the flag and say graph materials on selected objects. Either way works. They get here. Okay, and I need to change how many repeats are on this flag cloth. So I'm going to go to this place 2D texture and take this up to 200 in one direction by 100 in the other direction. Okay, and if we turn this on to viewport 2.0, unless it blares out super white, we should be able to see some sort of texture in there. Okay, and it looks like it's pretty even. I'll just, for fun, I'll swap these two numbers, and it looks exactly the same. So the only way we're going to really see this is to render it out, or just cut these numbers down. Okay, if you want to test to see which direction we're going, let's say I put this to 10 and 20. And let me go back to this bump value. And I'll even make this bump like 5. That way we can really see it. Okay, and you can see this is definitely going in the wrong direction. So let's go back to our place 2D for the cloth. And you can see this looks a little bit more proportionate to the direction we need to go. Okay. Now you can also see that these look a little bit thinner here and a little bit thicker there. I can also come to my cloth and change my width. So if I change my V width to 0.25, you can see that these get thinner. If I change this one to 0.25, those ones get thinner. Okay. So I can play with these numbers as well just to get something that looks a little bit more natural. Okay, a little more even. So this one at 0.7 and this one at 0.5 seems like they're pretty close together. Then I can come back in here and say 200 and then 100. And then of course go back to my bump and take this down to 0.1. Okay, it just needs a slight bump on there just to give it some detail, just to give it the look of, yes, there's some cloth on there. And then this pole will just assign a Mia to it. Okay. And this will be flag glag pole. Do it again. Flag pole. Yeah. My keyboard's slightly off center, so my typing is not perfect. And I'm going to go to presets, and I'll start with copper. There we go. So we get this gold color. Because we're doing the linear workflow, we're not going to get gold. So I need to make sure that I click on my button here. Make sure my other stuff is set up right. Yes, okay. Click on that button there, go to Maya, go to Gamma Correct, and then go to the value, and then pick a color. Okay, I can make the flag color whatever I want. I'm going to make it this other color here. That copper color is really kind of big. Alright, now this reflected color is basically the same thing as the copper color, or as the diffuse color. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go to the hypershade. I'm going to go to the flagpole. I'm going to click the graph button. And here is the flagpole Mia, and here is this gamma correct. If I middle drag this gamma correct onto the word color for reflection, you can see how it basically that same color is in both of these. So it just saves me a step. I mentioned it before, I'm pretty lazy at times. Okay, so I'm just going to play with these numbers and take away, give about half of the coloring to the diffuse and half of the coloring to reflection. There we go. And I'm also going to come down here to anisotropy. Now I'm going to turn this on. If you look at this highlight here, as I turn that on, it spreads it out. There we go. Something like 5. That was cool. Alright. So we can test it out, but eventually we'll test it out and see what it looks like. I could also go in here and just add some fancy detail to it. If I go to create a sphere, I'm in the move tool, I hold down V, I middle mouse button click, there's a sphere. Sound effects not included. Okay, so now I just have a little cap on there. It looks kind of fancy. Then I can just assign under my existing materials flagpole. There, now that looks like they're connected. Okay, let's go in the outline and just make sure we're keeping organized. We're not. Okay, we've never organized a thing in this file. And it's about time we start doing that. Okay, I don't want you to think that you always have to keep everything organized every second of the way. But at some point you need to come in here and just start organizing your stuff. So P-Sphere 1, planet. These two area lights that are here, these two are the first ones that we did. These are for our actual planet. Okay, so I'm just going to group those. There it is, Control G. I'm going to call these scenery lights. And then lights 3 and 4 are for our alien. So I'm going to group those and call those alien lights. Okay, polysphere. I can just hit F to frame it. There we go. This is I. And we'll just call this left eye. Polysphere, surface, that's our alien. Polysphere 3. And if this one's called left eye, then this one we'll call T-Boz. Just a joke. No TLC fans, probably. Okay, never mind. Alright, our cylinder is flagpole. Plane is flag, or flag. This is the flag nucleus. This is what's controlling the dynamics in the scene, the wind and whatever else, the stuff we adjusted. This is our flag stuff here. This is our dynamic constraint. Basically, we leave these guys untouched, okay? So just don't play with these at all. You can group them and just call this dynamic junk, but we never want to move that stuff, okay? Polysphere, let's be flag, pole, cap. I'm going to grab all this stuff and group it. Flag stuff. Okay, and then I'm going to rewind and just play and just make sure everything's still working. Okay, sometimes when you start grouping dynamic stuff, it can get a bit wonky. Grab my alien stuff, group it. Entire alien. And then there's the planet. Okay, so then we can save. I can grab these guys, put them on my low-res stuff. There we go, good. And if I start turning stuff off, I have lights too. Let me grab the lights. Throw them on their own layer. Okay, at this point, this should be just automatic stuff. Back at the origin, we have our nucleus. That's still, that guy is still there. I'm just going to make a new layer called junk. It's not really junk, it's just stuff that we aren't really using. Okay, so we just hide it. And then we can turn our stuff back on, and there we go. Okay, so now let's save our scene as binary alien underscore 02. Alright. We have one more poly object we want to create. I'm just going to rewind. Another poly object is just a satellite that kind of comes by. And like everything, you want to go out to Google and you want to get some images of, you know, what does a satellite look like. Because there's lots of different types of satellites that are out there, okay? And I kind of based mine off of something like that one. It's more like this. This is actually the exact picture that I found that I wanted to use to create the satellite look, okay? So there's lots of different things that are out here. Ideally, I think the goal is that we have some sort of flying shape with solar panels. That's the major thing with any satellite design, the two things that it needs, okay? If you watch a lot of movies, you can see that some have lasers on them, some have like steel rods, titanium rods or whatever it was. These ones have like sonar. Okay, so we're going to create something, and you can feel free to create your own design as long as it looks cool and it covers, you know, the essentials of what we'd want. So I'm going to create a polygon cylinder, and to do this, I'm actually going to hide all my other stuff. Okay, I'm going to work at the origin here. It's a lot easier to work at the origin and then group everything and then move it where it needs to be. So I'm just pulling this up. I'm going to take the caps off. I don't like the caps on. Okay, and I'm just going to basically rough this into what that original chunkiness was. Where'd you go? I passed him up. There he is. So this original canister is what I'm going after initially. Okay, so there we go. Perfect. So then I can just start doing a series of extrudes just to get some more detail in this. Here's a fun tip. Hold down the Windows key and hit the left mouse button, or the left arrow, and it'll shrink your view to this side. So I can close that stuff there. Then I go to Firefox, I hold down the Windows key, hit the right button, and now I can see both of these things pretty simple. And I can also turn this blue circle off so I don't see that. So now I can model basically right as I'm working. Okay. So I'm going to extrude this and just pull it up a little bit, extrude it. I'm going to hit the R key to scale it and just scale it in. Move tool, pull it up. Extrude again, pull it up, extrude again, scale it in. I'm just roughing out the shape right now. Extrude again, pull it up, extrude again, out, extrude again, up, and taper. Maybe a little bit lower. Okay, so I just got that shape. Okay, just a series of extrudes, that's all it is. Okay, play with your extrudes to get it how you want. Always hit 3, especially when you're starting off with doing extrudes. Hit 3, and you should see a somewhat smooth surface. If you get anything funky in there, that means you've done something wrong. And then you just want to hit undo until that something wrong goes away. Okay? And then you hit 1 when you know you're cool. I hit 1 all the time because I know that I'm cool. Extrude again. Scale. Scoot it down. Move it down. Extrude. Pull it. Extrude. I'm just kind of freestyling. I watch a lot of rap videos, and that's one of the things that they say about them that makes them so good is they freestyle. So when I extrude, I'm totally freestyling. There we go. So that's kind of cool how that is. All right, good. Wonderful. All right, so now let's take and see those little bits of detail in here, these little lines that come in. So then I can just add those. So I'm just going to insert edge loop. And this is how complex this is going to be, is I'm just going to literally just drop in a series of lines here. And then I'm going to go into my edges, double click, shift, double click, like that. I'm going to bevel it. Where's my bevel tools? Let me just shrink this down to 0.1, 0.25, let's see. 0.25 looks good. Okay. Go to face, click this one, shift, double click. 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 Click that one, shift, double click. There we go. So now what that does is selects them all the way around. That's what that shift, double click is going to do. So now I can just go extrude, grab the blue arrow, and pull it out. Go to my object mode, click off, and now I have, it's hard to see, but it's there. I have these little bits of detail right in those little ridges, okay? So it makes it look fancy. And when I hit 3, it's kind of a little bit more pronounced. Let me turn the grid off. Okay? So I can add detail wherever I want. This is the cool thing about polygons, that you can just literally go in there, insert a couple edge loops, oops, like that, grab the faces, extrude, and then just like push stuff in. Okay, so that looks pretty neat. I think this needs a little bit more detail down here, so I'll insert some more edge loops. And again, I'm just kind of saying, okay, I need some detail, insert some edge loops, extrude it out. And I can create several different kinds of designs just playing with these settings. I want to scale it down so it kind of tapers. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to say that that's pretty much done. I think I want to add a little bit more detail around these caps here. Oops. So I'm going to go back to my tool, insert edge loop. I'm going to just extrude here, and I think I want to also extrude up here. Okay, so I'm going to grab the faces there. I'm just clicking with shift, double click, and it grabs around it, remember. I add it, extrude, grab the blue, pull it out. There we go. So now we have these little caps. You know, if this was some sort of actual device, I don't know, they'd have caps on it. There's also like screws on the top of this. We're going to ignore the screws. If you wanted to, you can put some cut a sphere in half and just duplicate it all the way around if you wanted. Alright, so now I'm going to go to face here. and face here. And I'm just going to extrude these. And then I'm just going to go to my offset and just pipe in a 0.0, 0.1. There we go. Just to have a little bit of an offset there, that's all. Because I'm going to go to edges now, and I'm going to double click all these hard edges because I want them to be softer. So I'm just shift double clicking any of these hard edges going around. Because when I smooth this out, if I decide to smooth it out, I want to make sure I don't get this like weird bell shape. I want it to be a nice solid shape. Okay, driving me crazy having the screen this small. There we go. I want you to imagine that I'm still doing that. I'm actually just going to move this over to my other screen. Okay, and as always, go into wireframe, spin around this thing, whatever it takes. Make sure you don't grab any edges you don't need in here. Okay, very easy to accidentally select some extra edges. Then we go to bevel. I think 0.1, 0.25 in my case is going to be the exact thing that I want, so that when I hit 3, you can see that I don't lose this. And I think I probably want 2 segments on here as well. Back to object mode. That looks gorgeous. Okay, that looks like a satellite dish. I almost, for a second there, I thought it actually was a satellite dish. Alright, so I'm going to hit 1 again. And I think I want to add just another little loop in here. Insert edge loop. Grab the face. Extrude this out. I'm just seeing a little bit of blank space in here that I just don't like. Especially when I grab the picture over here. There's a little bit of something like these things like clamped onto, so that'll just give me something to do. Alright, back to edges. And then, come on. Grab all these edges around here, just using shift and double clicking. And then I'm going to bevel it. And then I will click on 0.25. I'll click in 2 segments. And I'll move on to the next piece. Alright. Now for the solar panels. The solar panel is comprised of, not a cylinder. I don't know why I clicked that. Plane. It's comprised of a bunch of little squares. Okay. So we're just going to, oops. I haven't moved it in the Z direction. Okay, I've done that on purpose. I want it just in the Y and the X direction. See my Z, my translate Z is zeroed out. Okay, that way when I'm done with this, I can just duplicate it and flip it over here. Okay, so I'm just going to make a bunch of squares. So this is about the length of this I want, maybe a little bit wider. Okay, I'm just going to add some divisions until I get the squares that I want. And a cool feature is once I get these to be square, I can actually grab both of these and middle drag. And you can see how it resizes both of them, which is a pretty nice feature. Most of the time you pay extra in a car to get that kind of stuff. I'm going to grab the whole thing. I'm going to go to Edit Mesh. I'm going to go to Bevel. And it looks like a mess, so I'm going to come down to Poly Bevel. Change my offset to 0.1. That looks good. I just want to see what 0.05 looks like, because it looks better. 0.05 is definitely better. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to grab all of these faces right here. Okay, so I'm just going to grab all of these. There's other tools to do it, but I don't want to blow your mind this early in the game. Plus, it gives us something to do while we're discussing the weather, I guess. Oops, too late, we're already done. Alright. So I grabbed all the faces. Again, zoom in, make sure you don't grab any faces you don't want. Perfect. Extrude. And then we just pull it down like that. Okay. And that's good. I like it. There's my solar panel. I want to give it a little bit of thickness, so I'm going to go to Edge and double click this edge here. Notice how it goes all the way around. Perfect. I'm going to extrude. I'm going to go to thickness. It's probably the wrong one. It's the wrong direction anyway. There you go, negative 0.1. And you can see how it pushes it outward. Okay. And I think that is the wrong one. Let's go to offset. Negative 0.1. Ah, both of those are wrong. Alright. So I'll just grab the blue arrow and pull it out. There we go. So that works. Then I'm going to extrude again. Oops, maybe not. That's so funky. Alright, I'm going to go to the scale tool first. And just grab the green scaler and just scale this into that blue area. Perfect. Extrude again. Go to the move tool and just pull it down. Pull it down. Okay, now with that bottom area selected, go to Mesh, fill hole, and the hole is closed. So there's our solar panel. It's beautiful, wonderful, and gorgeous. And because we have nothing else to do, get these monotonous tasks out of the way, we're going to grab these faces again. So it's supposed to snow on Thursday. Now if I'm reusing this lecture in another semester, that's probably false. But knowing Michigan is probably true. Done. Lighting and shading, assigned favorite material, Mia. Solar panel blue, Mia. Click the Mappy button. Click the Gamma Correct button. Point 454. Click the value. Find a nice cool blue color. There you go. It kind of looks like a solar panel-y color. Back button. Take my reflectivity down. Take my glossiness, maybe 0.7. Okay. Now what I want to do is grab every other plane in here besides the faces that I just grabbed. So again, I could go through and re-grab these, but I can go to Hypershade. And here's my solar panels. So if I right click and say select objects, ta-da! There is all those faces selected. So now I can hold shift, I can marquee it, and if you see that I have the faces selected, except for the faces that I already colored. So I go back to lighting and shading, back to assign new material or favorite if you already have it favorited. This will be solar panel metal Mia. Solar panel metal Mia. It's a tongue twister. Let's go to presets, and I'm going to start off with a satin metal. The satin metal looks really cool. And if you look, this is a pure white, so I don't even need to color it. Pure white, don't need to color it. And good. So that one is perfect. We can do another thing to it. We hit 6. There's our solar panel. It looks fancy. Now just to show you that sometimes we can do things multiple ways. Okay. Here is another plane. I'm going to roughly size it. There we go. I'm going to roughly grab the divisions here and shrink them down. Looks like there's about 4 going that way, and maybe 11 or so going this way. 12. Okay, I'll accept 12. Now if I grab these faces here and I go to extrude, and I take their offset down to 0.1, and I come over here to where it says keep faces together and I turn that off, you can see how it extrudes each one individually. There we go. I can even change that to 0.025. There we go. And then I can extrude this again, and then push it down. And then with these faces still selected, I can go to assign our solar panel blue. And then with the faces are still selected, I can shift marquee it, assign the solar panel metal. I can grab the edge, I can extrude. Just move it down. I can go to mesh, fill hole, and in 2 seconds, voila. Same exact thing. Okay? Just different method of doing it. Okay, obviously this one was quicker, but you never know until you try. Alright, so there's one panel. Now before I duplicate it, it has these little bars that are like attaching it. I want to make sure I grab the bars also. Okay. So this is about, I'm going to say it's about here-ish. Okay, it's pretty close. And it's going to be angled. I'll angle it in a minute. Calm down. I'm going to grab the correct tool that allows me to scale. I'm going to grab the correct tool that allows me to rotate. I'm going to scale this thing out. And if you've forgotten what they taught you in physics school, this is a bar to hold up a metal solar panel device. Okay, called the solar panel holding bar. It's a very technical name. Perfect. All right, so now we need a couple bars just holding the sides. So we'll go to create polygons. We can use 75 different methods to do this. I'm going to pick the one that's probably going to be the hardest one, and then I'll show you a super easy one. Just kidding. I grab a cube, and I'm going to delete those faces, so that gives me this. Okay, a little C shape, which if you look at this shape, basically like a little C. Okay, obviously there's extra stuff to it, but we're not going to get that close. I'm just going to scale it down, and I'm just going to go to the front view, and then go to vertex, and just move these vertices where I think they should be. Okay, so I'm imagining this thing kind of clamps into here, into this area. Pull this one up. Let's say like that. Okay, kind of clips in here like that, and that's what's holding this panel up. All right, so now I can just go to extrude, and I'll play with the thickness. Negative 0.1. There we go. So that gives me a nice little thickness right there that allows me to go ahead and throw some bevels on this guy. Grab the whole thing, bevel the whole thing. If you're ever bored on a Saturday night, just grab some polygons and just throw bevels on them. You'll realize how quickly the time's going to fly. I'm going to grab this one and just scoot this forward a little bit more, and just scoot this one back a little more. Okay, just not liking how they're placing there. Now it is a little bit misshapen. I don't care about that. There you go. I wanted it to touch like that. Okay, cool. All right, so there's that one. Now this isn't going to touch here. It's actually going to be rotated off to the side. I don't think these things are actually even holding this. It's hard to see, but if you look really close, you can see that they're not really holding it. They're kind of holding this bar here, which seems like a silly thing, but whatever. All right, so I'm going to take this guy, and I'm going to group him. That's the easiest way to just move the pivot to the center. I group him. You see the pivot goes over here, and then I can just rotate this. Okay, so I'm going to rotate it 30 degrees, which is some dividend of 360. Okay, then I can duplicate it and rotate it negative 30 degrees. So there's two of them. 1, 2. Then I can grab both of these. I can grab my solar panel. I can group all three of those. Control G. I can duplicate them. Control D. And I can rotate it 180 degrees in the Y direction, which is half of 360. Flips it right over to the other side. Perfect, wonderful, gorgeous. A little bit of rotation, oops, on these guys here. Now, I would imagine that these would be facing the same way because otherwise we're not going to get perfect sun exposure. So, because we rotated the group, it's going to do that. So this one I'll rotate, let's say negative 15. This one I'll rotate positive 15. Okay? I have to make sure I rotate in the correct direction. That's obviously not the correct direction. There you go, X. Alright, so now we have that good. So now I just have to go through and just retexture this other stuff here. So this guy, this, and these. I think I'm just going to give it that same, if you look at this, it's kind of like a brushed metal. But I'm going to do something a little bit different, which is I'm going to use a texture on it that's going to make it look like it's more metallic. So assign favorite material Mia, or assign new, depending on if you have it in there. Satellite metal Mia. Now I'm going to go to color and map something to color. Okay, under file, map, and I found this really cool metal texture. That's not it. There it is. So it's this one here. It's a metallic fence texture, Twitter background. I don't know. I found it somewhere on the internet. You can also find things on CG textures that just look like paneled metal. And I wanted to use this one just to show you that you can do different things with it. Okay, we don't have to get too nitty-gritty with a lot of these things. So here's some panels, panels. Okay, lots of different things that we can use. Okay, some of these with text on here, these wouldn't be appropriate, or this wouldn't be appropriate. Okay, but stuff like that, maybe you can use it in some specific things. You really want to find something that's very generic. Okay, even like this you could use, but who would throw that in outer space and let it, you know, power lasers and whatever else it's doing, spying on people. So I'm using this one, and you can see that this looks really kind of funky. All right, so I'm just going to grab this guy, and I have to fix its UVs. So I'm going to go to polygons. I'm going to go to create UVs, cylindrical mapping, and grab this red and just drag that red all the way around. Okay, back to object mode, and there it is. Okay, that's it. That's all I have to do for that one. Okay, I'm not going to get that close to it, that I need to do anything further on that texture. Alright, I am going to go through and adjust some of its properties, but that's besides the point. So here's the metal material. I can also grab this file here and middle drag this onto color for reflectivity. And what that's going to do is it's going to use the color properties of this as what it's reflecting. Okay, I don't want it super reflective, so I'm going to take it down to 0.2. I'm going to take the glossiness down to about 0.7. Okay. Bump map. I can also middle drag my file onto standard bump, the word. Take that down. There we go. And so now we're going to get this thing that's just going to look, you know, a little bit more detailed than it actually is. Okay. Alright, so that's cool. So let's go to the outliner. Here's my two cylinders for this. Here's my groups. You can see these guys are empty. There's nothing next to them. Delete them. Here's these two groups. I don't want these in groups anymore. So I'm just going to hit Edit, Ungroup. Okay, so I can go through and name this Satellite Body. Satellite Bar. I forgot the technical name. It's been 2 minutes. My memory is not what it used to be. Quick thing. I want to rename 4 things. Up here on the far, whatever it is, there's this guy that says rename. I'm going to call him Satellite C-Clips. And I'll say 01. So you can see it names these, all 4 Satellite C-Clips 01, 2, 3, and 4. Wonderful. And just for fun, let's grab those 2 and say satellite reflectors, whatever they're called, solar panels. There we go. 01. So now we have 2. So now we grab all these, we group them, and then I rename this satellite. Okay? Wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous. Let's drop our stuff back on. This guy's going to be a high-res object, so I'm going to drop him on high-res. Okay. Huge. Shrink him down. Okay? If we get issues when we shrink things down, we just delete the history and then shrink it down. Okay? Alright. And it's actually not going to be terribly huge because he's actually going to be in the background. So I'm just going to rotate him a little bit like this and move him back here. Okay? So our camera's going to be like this, and I want this guy just to kind of go woo, but rotating. Okay? Not just like straight. Satellites don't go straight like that. Alright, so I'm going to get him on a cool angle. There you go. The chicks dig that angle of satellite dishes, just so everyone knows. Alright, now I want to rotate him perfectly around the moon. Okay? So I'm going to hit Control G again, which, if we look at the outliner, groups him again. So we've grouped our group. It's Sunday night, we can get a little crazy. Satellite animation group. Okay, and the reason we did that is because it puts our pivot right down here. And now if we rotate this, you can see how it's moving this guy. Okay, now if it's not far enough down, I can hold down D and pull this down further so it's closer to the center of the moon, and then do this. And you can see we can get this rotation, and it goes all the way around. Now we're only going to see this little part of it, so that's all I want to do is just have it go like that. Okay, so at frame 1, I'm going to have it over here. Set a key on the rotate Z, because that's the one that's moving. Key it. Go up to 120, that's our last frame. Rotate it. Come on. And then set another key. Now, if we decide we want to change that, we can change that later. Okay? But I just want to have a basic, just like before, a basic start. So there's our satellite, just scooting by the alien with our flag flapping in the background. Okay? Now I also want to go to my satellite group. I want to go to the graph editor, so I go to Window, Animation Editor, Graph Editor. I'm going to click in here and hit F. Okay, this is making it soft. It's like basically slow down, speed up, and then slow down is what this is telling that thing to do. So I'm going to just click on this, and then click on this straight line here, this angled line. Alright, satellites don't slow down. They just go at one constant speed throughout their entire life until they crash and burn on the Earth's surface. And then it's lawsuit time. Alright. Okay. Now the cool thing about doing what I just did, which is animating this group, is that if I realize, I really don't like that angle, I can grab the satellite group, I can re-rotate it, and my animation is still in play. You see, the animation still works. I could even animate this group if I needed to, just because I wanted to just animate it kind of rotating this way a little bit, or rotating that way a little bit. Okay, so I can just keep that in mind. Write it in your day planner so you don't forget it. Okay, so let's save this again as Alien 03. Okay, wonderful. So that's our last polygon object. Now just to verify it, I'm going to save. I'm going to open up my other scene. Okay, this will also give you an opportunity just to see where we're going with the rest of the stuff and see where we're at. Now I did model 2 aliens. You can model 100 aliens if you wanted to. Obviously it's going to take longer. So there's our moon, there's our flag, there's our satellite. And you see on this one I colored these orange. I use basically the same like metal texture there. So we can do different things. Alright, so the last little bit we have in here, this is 2 little ships. Okay. So we can stop there for now. We can go grab a coffee and then come back and join me again.